Good morning, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 27th day of September 2021, and it's time now we focus on the different matters affecting the nation. And I want to introduce the panel here in studio. We have Dr. Eden Kenan, MP Elders, but also the Joint Secretary of the Parliamentary Group of the Jubilee Party. Welcome to the show.
Morning, viewers.
We have Dr. Chris Omalo, Member of Parliament from Community. He had been away for a few days. Maybe he'll be talking about that. Welcome back to the show.
Morning.
And you have Opio Andai, the Member of Parliament for Ugunja, but also Chair of the Public Accounts Committee at the National Assembly. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Sam.
And you're still expecting Uhuru Court. He's not able to attend in person, but you're trying to get hold of him so that he can share with us his views about different matters affecting the nation this morning. But let's begin by looking at the papers. The front page of the Standard, you'll see Will Kagwe tilt scale in State House race. We can today reveal that there are efforts to have health CAs run for president in the next poll, with Uhuru ending his final term and everyone jostling to have a piece of the pie. What impact will a Kagwe bid have? It's a story that is focused on page 8 of the Standard. I don't know that this is a reality. We'll be hearing from the leaders here. Also, there's a story, the main story of the Daily Nation, Signs of Trouble. IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati's situation brief catalogues hurdles, and Parliament is sitting on laws required to help plan for next year's general election. Treasury has reduced and delayed disbursement of funds, and Communications Authority is yet to ensure 3G coverage in all polling stations. This will be an important question, especially as we talk about the making of an election, which is a topic that we'll be covering later on. But let me just begin by getting a feel from the panelists here, because on the front page of the Standard you see that question of Mutahi Kagwe, but also Gideon Moi endorsed at home by elders. The senator retreats to his rural Sacho home, where clergy and elders back him for national office, saying he has demonstrated capacity to lead Kenya. And of course, we are talking about this at a time that we've seen a lot of political leaders coming up and saying that they are ready to lead the nation. We're talking about people like Musalia Mudavadi, William Ruto, Kalonzo Musyoka, still expected but not yet declared Raila Odinga, Ruben Kigame, Kivutha Kibwana, Governor of Makueni, but also there's Mukisa Kitui and so many more, including Speaker Justin Muturi of the National Assembly. And let me begin with you, Opio Andai. When you look at such a headline, we're just about, is it 10 months or so, 10 months and a few days to the general election, at a time that the Mount Kenya region has been saying we may not necessarily have a presidential candidate of the entire region, but you see the face of Mutahi Kagwe. What's going on?
Well, you know, Sam, to begin with, Mutahi Kagwe, of course, has got all the rights to want to be anything, including president of Kenya, because he qualifies profusely. And it's also a guy who is likable. Quite likable and knowledgeable on many issues. However, where we have reached now in this country is a political calendar. No more boardroom discussions, no more boardroom strategies, no more boardroom postulations will amount to anything unless one gets out there and starts looking for votes, really. The time for scheming, for planning is essentially over, in my view. Yes, and the people have started to understand who they are going to vote for, really, for every other position that is in contention. So I think whoever is, of course, crafting this for my friend Mutahi Kagwe is doing fine, but time is not on their side. He needs to get out, but he'll still play a key role even if he doesn't run for president, I believe. He's a guy we would want to have on our side. Yes, as the Azimio La Umoja. Yes, he's a guy who is going to be very, very useful on our side because of his sobriety and experience in public management. Okay? Okay. Yes. On this issue of...
So he would be on your side in what capacity? I mean, he has been to the highest office, if a cabinet secretary...
Which highest office?
The only high office is deputy president or president, and now it's said, but the Standard says that he could be running for presidency. So what would he be doing on your side?
You know, Sam, first and foremost, being a president is not a child's play. And it calls for serious, meticulous planning. That takes time. Yeah, what I'm saying is that whereas I agree Mutahi Kagwe is ripe to be anything, including president, is indeed a good candidate for that office, time is not really proper for him. And therefore, we would want to work with him, of course, like many other people we are trying to work with in this journey of transforming this country and of ensuring that we bring meaningful change, not only to the country but to the people. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Dr. Kenan, what are your thoughts? Because many continue to declare their interest at a time that regions also continue to come together and find what works for us, what are we looking for in this election. What does this tell you this morning?
I think there are three aspects to this. One, Kenya is a democracy, meaning therefore that there is space and opportunity for every individual to demonstrate his leadership or her leadership. Two, this country is about regions and tribes, and that has been one of the key aspects in the making of the nation state of the Republic of Kenya. And three is the person of Mutahi Kagwe. In my opinion, Mutahi Kagwe is a distinguished, highly qualified CS, current CS, and a former minister in Kibaki's government. So in the person of Mutahi Kagwe, in my opinion, he's highly qualified. He's one of the best performing ministers. You know the way he has managed COVID, even in the past, the ministries that he has had. So for him to demonstrate a big ambition right now is welcome. It's part of our healthy democracy. What remains is how this is going to be captured within the bigger framework of coalition making and regional interests. So in my opinion, Mutahi Kagwe, as an individual, and I'll repeat this, as an individual, we look at even from the time he took over the Ministry of Health to date, the way he has managed, the PR, the institutional mechanism, the performance index and all that he has done, I think he has whatever it takes.
But the ability to Ghana is...
And then I'm saying, allow me to complete this. I said there are three aspects to this.
Right.
So now I'm on the point of Mutahi Kagwe as an individual. So Mutahi Kagwe has all the credentials of a presidential candidate. But again, that has to be within the confine of the bigger Kenyan society. So you can ask now your question.
No, I'm asking about the possibility of him, garnering enough votes to take him to the high office.
I think, again, maybe because I read too much politics and so many things, I say this country, look at the voting trends since the advent of multipartyism in 1991. We may try to, push this aside. But basically, we still remain regional. We still remain tribal. There's a bit of, personality cult. There's a bit of, you can call an individual enigma or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure my friend here will agree. But largely speaking, when regions decide to vote, you will see that inherent trend of saying who is from our region, who is from my the nearest we have ever gone out of this was the farthest actually, let me say this. We have ever gone out of this was 2002, another NAC euphoria. Okay. Are we likely to get another euphoria? I do not know. 10 months is such a long time in politics. Okay. But where he comes from, if he was to, organize and put together the Mount Kenya vote, that is the biggest voting bloc in Kenya. And that will be a good start. But I'm saying all this, a lot of things are happening. Okay. There are groups. We have President Uhuru, who is really fighting hard for his legacy. We have our handshake partners. We have our OCA group. All these will be done within the bigger framework of one theory. Not one theory, but one message, the national interest.
All right.
That must supersede any other thing.
Oh, all right. And Dr. Chris Omala, of course, every day we're hearing of more and more cabinet secretaries who want to venture into politics. Of course, this is according to the standard. So the CS Kagwe may not have spoken about it. But last week there was a press conference from some members of parliament from Kisii region, and they're coming out and saying that we want CS Matiang'i to advocate for our issues. There have been reports that CS Keter may be eyeing a county seat back in his county. And now you see what CS Kagwe is being reported to be seeking. Uhuru Atani is already spearheading OPA movement. We don't know whether he is going to run for office, but this has an impact on the cabinet of the president, because come February, all civil servants have to leave office. So how will this leave the president, and how does he manage a cabinet at a time that for the very first time we have a transition under the new constitution that requires cabinet secretaries or senior civil servants running for office to vacate office?
Yeah, thank you very much for that particular question, and I'm happy to be back. I was out of the country. I was in the United States of America. I was also in Italy, but purely on matters to do with the parliament.
Okay.
And the church.
Welcome back.
Now, coming to that question of cabinet secretaries, one thing we need to put across is that cabinet secretaries, by the way, and any other civil servant, they are not supposed to engage themselves in matters of politics. It is very, very, very clear, because it will actually compromise on delivery. And that's why it requires them to resign. Any public officer, whether you're a DO, whether you're a DC, whether you're a PS, you must resign. And my advice to His Excellency the President, you don't have to wait until February. He should move with speed and reshuffle cabinet, particularly those who are interested to go into political positions. They should move out and go and do politicking. We've seen most people who are in government going to do politics to compromise service delivery because of the issue of the conflict of interest. Remember, when you go down there on a cabinet position or on a government position, you come with that respect, you come with that benefit of enjoying the government resources, you know. But if you are using the government resources for your own advantage, then there is conflict of interest and you compromise. And we've seen it happening, particularly in Rift Valley, where the regional commissioner declared interest to run for governor. It has compromised his performance. You can see issues of security in Laikipia, in Baringo, at the expense, because he's been going to Trans Nzoia, he wants to run for political office at the expense of service delivery. So we call such people.
I thought I saw a report saying that CS Omalo is not interested in running for the county office.
I never said CS. I said I gave an example of the regional commissioner who is interested.
Who is your competitor?
Absolutely. And he has, yeah, of course, he should leave office and go and run, because it has compromised service delivery in terms of security, like Laikipia, we've seen in Baringo, because he's not there. Most of the time he's in
Do you say that?
He's in Trans Nzoia.
Do you say that out of evidence or out of competition?
No. You know, as a legislator, I'm here to provide oversight. And my role is very clear. That's why we are saying civil servants, whether you're a cabinet secretary, if you're interested in politics, please resign and go to the ground.
You, because, look, George Natembe is not in this studio.
No. Because you asked cabinet secretary, and absolutely it's the same thing. Because in government.
Look, I asked about CS, you went to...
No, I was coming to that. Now, when it comes to the CS...
Just to the question, Dr. Omalwa. What I'm asking is, because Natembe is not here, and you're already on the ground, you want to run for the seat of the governor.
Yes.
And you're saying that his involvement in politics has hampered his service delivery. How so? How exactly? Do you have any evidence to show that because of his interest in politics, things are not working as they should?
You know, you're not the only person in Jerusalem. You've seen in security cases in Laikipia. You've seen in Baringo, which is under his jurisdiction. You've had people complaining. If you watched Murkomen on the floor of the House, you've watched the governor of Mandago, of Eldoret, has complained. We've seen people in Laikipia complaining. Because the docket of security, it is something which is very, very sensitive. And you must be on top of things. But because of your divided interests, you are likely to compromise service delivery. And the same thing also comes to the cabinet secretaries. If a cabinet secretary wants to involve himself in politics, let's give an example of Matiang'i. Matiang'i being the cabinet secretary in charge of the security, which is something very critical, particularly at such a time when you are going towards elections. He must be on top of things everywhere. He should not be seen that is conflicted when it comes to matters of service delivery. And that's why I said His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, for to get his legacy, all the interested parties, whether you are a DO, whether you are a DC, whether you are a cabinet secretary, whether you are PS, at a time like this, they should give room for others who are not interested in politics to be able not to compromise on service delivery.
Honorable Piondai, if CSs need to leave office to go and vie for other political offices, To replace them, you'll have to go through the parliamentary route. So the president nominates, parliament vets those nominees, and then they're approved. Is it necessary with just about 10 or so months to go? And when you get to February next year, will the president need to do that?
Well, you see, what is the bigger picture here? The law is very clear that every Kenyan citizen who qualifies can run for any office, including the cabinet secretaries, really. And again, of course, for one to run for public office, you must go out there and campaign. And therefore, it would definitely follow that anybody who wants to run for public office and currently in government will have to leave, okay? Yeah. At some point. At some point. The question is at what point, really? Yes. And that is something that is left to their conscience, in my view. Yeah, because the moment you start expressing interest in a political office, your focus your attention is divided. Yeah. Yeah, that follows without say. And whether there is time to replace them is a moot question, because the law is clear that if there's a vacancy in an office such as CS office, there's a procedure to be followed, and there's time. You can even have a minister serving for 1 month. We have had vice presidents serving for 2 months. I remember in the year 2002, my friend Musalia Mudavadi served for 2 months, I think. Okay? So the question of time that doesn't arise. This is a constitutional issue. It's a legal issue. And you can't again stop somebody from expressing interest in running for a political office. That is their constitutional right. We need to live with this as a country, yes, under this new constitutional dispute.
But Dr. Kenan, as you exit from this, what is your suggestion on the best way to manage this? Because CSs are responsible for running of their departments, or their dockets. So in terms of service delivery, once the head of that institution is gone, yes, the PS may take charge, but they cannot play the role of a cabinet secretary per se. So what is your suggestion on the best way to deal with this?
I'm glad that Kenyans are now beginning to see some of the constitutional misnomers, we'll call them misnomers, in the current constitution. Ideally, we have a pure presidential system. And I think we lost an opportunity to correct some of these things, the BBI debate, because some of these roles, the current CSs who are technically civil servants, ought to be played by politicians. That notwithstanding, I think we operate under very strict constitutional guidelines. Even those, it's the right of every Kenyan to express political interests for any position. Equally, it's incumbent upon those in position who are also doing other jobs, like the CSs, to apply the law strictly and remain within the confines of the law in their quest for positioning themselves for certain political positions. But having said that, I think so far, there's a constitutional timelines of 9th February. So far, I haven't seen any CS who has gone out of his way to break the law as far as pursuing his or her political ambition is concerned. So what they have said is the intent that they need to pursue this. I think there's no harm. What Mutahi Kagwe is doing, there's no harm. What I am not aware, I work with Okur. Two of us are the founding members of OPIA. I think he has not expressed any political interest. What we are doing is just a movement. Okay. And that is within our constitutional right to organize our community. So equally, I haven't seen any direct political expression from CS Matiang'i. But again, people have the right. That's why I say our regions, our tribes, our history is part of the constitution.
Dr. Kenan, if you are the president and there are those possibilities, what would you do today?
You should reshuffle.
In fact, yes, that's a good question. If a person has outrightly expressed the desire to go for a certain political position, I think it's only fair that you allow other people to do that particular job as you pursue your particular. So I'm sure the president has access to so many things that we do not know. He has an overview of all those who work for him. He has the intelligence at his disposal. So I don't doubt at all the timing and what he's likely to do. Okay. And I'm sure at an opportune time, guided by the law, His Excellency the President will act in accordance with the Constitution, in accordance with the national interest of the people of Kenya and the aspiration of those individuals who have expressed interest in pursuing certain political, which is their right, which is part of our healthy democracy.
Of course, Dr.
So let's not demonize.
Sure.
I want to say this, and I want my good friend, doctor, let's not demonize anybody who has expressed the desire to go for particular. Let them only do. The only thing we ask them is let them do within the confines of
All right.
of the law.
Dr. Amala, I was asking that question because you can only make a replacement in a cabinet secretary position once there's a vacancy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't allow the president to sort of nominate so that you have that smooth transition from one CS to another. So I was asking for the sake of the question of time.
Yeah, on the issue of the time, which I want to point out clearly, there's no shortcut when it comes to appointment of the cabinet secretary. Under the pure presidential system, all the CSs must be vetted by parliament, even if it is 2 months to electioneering time. And my cue, parliament is going to be there up to the last minute. So if His Excellency the President is aware of certain cabinet secretaries, and of course he can call them, he's the boss. And those who have shown interest, they'll be able to tell him, if you're interested, to give him way. And one thing I want to say is even if it remains 2 or 3 months, whatever the president wants to appoint must be vetted by parliament.
Right.
Upon the approval by parliament is when the president can pick that person to be the CS. So there's no shortcut about that.
I think there's another stage before that. The president nominates.
Yes. It goes to parliament for vetting.
Vetting, approval.
It must be vetted.
That's what I'm saying. So before you vet, before parliament vets, the president must initiate first.
Yes, that's
parliament
true.
does not just
he nominates.
vet out. Yes,
and he can only nominate once there's a vacancy.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Of course, the conversation continues. I want us to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the conversation around the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency. There's a report, a probe report that was done by the Public Investments Committee that is detailing some recommendations, including further investigation against some of the top officials from KEMSA, but also some organizations that may have received money from the agency in what is related to COVID-19 response. We do this after the break.